What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. So we have an interesting situation that may be coming up in the draft war room regarding our center situation. So according to Tony Pauline of the Pro Football Network, he specifically mentioned in quotes, one more interesting tidbit on Luke Wypler to the Jets is that I'm told Rodgers is warming to the idea of taking snaps from the Ohio State product. Josh Myers, the Packers center and a former Buckeye, has been singing the praises of Wypler to Rodgers, who just wants a smart blocker snapping to him. So in and of itself, I find that fascinating because the lead up to the draft is seeing us meet with John Michael Schmitz at every single point that we can. I want to say we've seen him at the Senior Bowl. We've seen him on a pre-draft visit. We've seen him for an official visit as one of our 30. And then we've held him for a private workout from what I recall. Also, we're bringing in center Joe Tippmann. So we're doing our research on him as well. And both of these guys could be potentially fringe first-round prospects, or they could be smack dab early on day 2 in the second round of the draft. But a third option, and maybe the more likely option for us if we decide we don't want to try to trade up to secure one of these centers, is a guy that I wasn't expecting, especially one that early on in the process was dubbed to be more of like a 4th, 5th round guy, and that's Luke Wypler from Ohio State. So I do find it fascinating that, he could potentially be the starting center for next year. And in addition to that, we know that Aaron Rodgers, from what he's been looped in about, he's not with the Jets, but we've had the wish list. We've had, his opinions on free agency, and it seems like that's bleeding into the draft as well. So ideally, you're going to want to try to satisfy two things in that situation, right? One, you want to try to make Aaron Rodgers happy in the meantime, but you also want to get a guy that's going to be a mainstay once he leaves in a year or two, because you don't want a one-year wonder under a Hall of Famer's expertise, and then you're kind of left, stuck holding the gun once you have to revert back to a rookie or a guy like Zach Wilson if you can't go and find you another veteran you're comfortable with. So the part that is more so interesting than anything else with me is the fact that it seems like, according to Tony Pauline, the coaching staff loves Luke Wypler, and it is Joe Douglas that isn't necessarily as high on him. Maybe that's depending on where they're evaluating he'll come off the board or where they're projecting him anyways, which if it's the second round, could make quite a bit of sense. And that is, again, more recently where I've been seeing people try to pick up Luke Wypler in mock drafts, and where I'm seeing the experts start to kind of place him around. So we'll see what happens there, right? Is this coming from more so a Nathaniel Hackett, of course, being the leader of the offense? Is this a Robert Saleh push that he loves? Is this purely based on Aaron Rodgers and the coaching staff loves what Luke Wypler could bring? Joe Douglas obviously having the expertise in the background, being a former offensive lineman himself. He hasn't quite been able to hit on the offensive line like we love, but that hasn't been for a lack of effort or trying, and a lot of that has generally been out of his control with stuff like injury concerns and different things like that. So what does Luke Wypler bring to the table that the coaching staff may love? We'll keep this short since this isn't an official scouting breakdown, but we have to start with the fact that he was the anchor to the number one offense in college football. That in and of itself is a big feat. And, every single member of the 22 players that are starting, and of course the additional members that make up that roster to help contribute, are all vital in some point. But being on the offensive side of things, you definitely get a little bit more attention and things that are going to be coming your way. So he anchored the number one offense in college football. We're talking about a guy that's 6'3", 303 pounds. He's not necessarily tipping the scales, but that actually works in our favor due to the elite athleticism that he's going to bring to this roster. A Jersey native, this is the guy that had the story that's, not too dissimilar from another fan favorite in Jeremy Ruckert, right? So you can go and find you another guy on offense. You also have that connection between him and Jeremy Ruckert as well. So there's a lot of connective tissue within the organization with a guy like him. You obviously are potentially getting the Aaron Rodgers cosign. But as I mentioned, he's a prospect that I didn't, until I kind of went through it briefly, he wasn't a guy that struck me as like a pro-ready center, but actually that couldn't be farther from the truth. He's not in the same class as JMS or Joe Tippmann, in my opinion, but he's a guy within our scheme, is a guy that can go out there and be highly effective, especially with Aaron Rodgers leading the way. So, what is he bringing with that elite athleticism? He's going to be able to go out there and complete some of the classic staples in our offense that need to be done, such as pull and reach blocks at a high level. Jet sweeps are going to be things that we see him have tremendous success in because he's one of the best or speedier centers that you're going to find in this draft class in terms of being able to go out there and force contact with his guy, reach the second level, highly effective in terms of communication. So he's going to be able to go out there and get his guys aligned right and then handle his duties. The pieces that are really holding him back is the fact that he has very limited strength and power right now, and those are two different classifications for me. For one, he doesn't have the raw power that you're going to look for at a position like that. And then in terms of the strength, he's going to go out there and get bullied. So if you want to take the Aaron Donald out of the equation, when you talk about guys within our own division, like I want to say his name is Christian Watkins, and that isn't it. But the boy from the Miami Dolphins, Christian something. Either way, when you have a guy like that, when you look at the Bills' defensive line, when you look at what the Patriots have been accustomed to over the years, he could have his hands full there. But in terms of having a perfect scheme fit, he's a guy that can see a lot of tremendous success purely based off that. So I would say with him, the floor is higher than what I thought it was originally, but the ceiling is also a lot lower than what it could be. He still has a little bit of room to grow in terms of getting that power and different things of that. But this is a guy that I look at that probably is going to become maybe a master technician in his trait, and not necessarily elite in terms of what he's going to bring physically, outside of maybe the speed and stuff, which we know is going to wane over time. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are about Luke Wypler. Is this a guy that we should look at seriously if Joe Tippmann, if JMS is off the board in the second round? And what do you think about the coaching staff kind of debating this guy? I feel like maybe he's definitely the third best center on our board still. I'd be surprised if he's any higher than that. But realistically, I wonder if we see a guy like Joe Tippmann versus Luke Wypler there when we're picking 42nd or 43rd. Is that a stronger debate between Joe Douglas and his coaching staff for either one? Because they both are bringing some pretty elite athletic traits. Yet Joe Tippmann, definitely has the much higher ceiling in terms of being able to evolve and maybe transform the center position for us. And then lastly, actually, I forgot some pro comparisons for you guys in terms of kind of what I've seen put out there. Garrett Bradbury and then Jake Grove, who's way back in the 2004 NFL draft. So you guys can kind of check out those comparisons as well. But again, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I'll catch you again. Peace.